Hello and welcome to another episode of the More Than Digital Marketing podcast, the podcast about digital marketing and so much more. I'm really pleased this week, after a solo episode last week, to be joined by my co-host today, Ricky.
Hello.
And I am, of course, Barnaby. So hello to everyone. How are you doing today, Ricky?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. We've just had a couple of meetings together this morning.
Yep.
Right, prime time, ready to smash out some pods.
Yes.
So a bit of a, I don't know, disclosery? No, I don't know.
Yeah.
We are extremely busy this time of year. So we have sought out the opportunity to batch cook, if you like, some podcasts here. So we're giving you some evergreen long-term value today, rather than the latest news. Hopefully that's okay. But I think the plan is for us to return to that in future months when other coasts come back. So
Definitely.
what have we got on the cards today, Ricky?
Today we are going to be talking about the best times to post on social media.
Excellent. And this comes off the back of an article, right?
Yeah. So it was on social media today, and it was published on May 21st. So it's a really interesting read, actually. If you want to check it out, it's called Report Highlights the Best Times to Post on Social Platforms in 2024. And I think the article starts, and I think it's something that would be really helpful for us to kind of acknowledge that it's never a one rule fits all on social media. There can be best practice, and there can be kind of this has worked for the majority of accounts, but there is never a do this and you'll get success.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's so nuanced, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think an important thing to say as well is that this is global data, and they make a point of you can obviously take it with a pinch of salt, but use this timing guideline no matter where in the world you are. So it's not like this is 7 p.m. UK time and you have to adjust it to that, right? So it goes through channel by channel. So I thought today we could go through and just dive into each channel and have a look at, well, what are the overall trends, any quirks in there, and then maybe a bit of a comparison and just some of the nuance there. Some of it is very interesting, especially some of the more niche channels or growing ones like Pinterest, like TikTok. But some of them, there's a bit of logic to it as well.
Yeah.
So I think we'll just go through the article in order, and we'll put the article in the description down there for anyone who's watching the video, who wants to check it out for themselves. The thing to say as well, these are really visual. I might flash one up on the screen now, depending on how keen I'm feeling in the video editing. So you can get an idea of these. These are really well presented charts, I guess, charts.
Yeah.
Which are really useful if you're an in-house marketer and you're looking to make a change and present it to your boss. It's really clear to see. And if you work in an agency and you're looking to make a suggestion to a client, as we have done with these graphs ourselves, it's really useful, and it's just kind of like the numbers are there and it's backed up, right? So starting with Facebook global engagement, we've got a real let's just kind of outline some of what the chart looks like, right? So we start with really light colors for areas where the engagement is lowest, and we get to a real dark blue. It's almost like a gray, isn't it, for the highest engagement areas. So I think we can probably ignore the times of like 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. because generally speaking, everyone's asleep there, right? But what do we see on Facebook, Ricky?
Yeah. So as probably expected, I don't think Facebook's particularly shocking in what it's saying. So as you move throughout the morning, it starts to kind of get higher and higher engagement from about 7 a.m., 8 a.m. onwards. This is weekdays, so Monday to Friday. And then peaking at kind of 9 a.m. to 12, 1 o'clock. They're kind of the optimal times that this suggests the highest engagement will be. And then it starts to kind of filter off a little bit. There is a little bit of a peak again at 5 o'clock, which, if you think about it, that tends to be when a lot of people have finished work. And again, the kind of early spikes, either they've just got up or maybe on a lunch break as well. So I think this one, to me, feels like kind of what a lot of social media managers have been working based on for a long time.
For sure.
That kind of morning spike and then the evening spike. But yeah, really interesting to see. And then weekends, it kind of stays at a steady rate, I would say, from about 7 a.m. till 5 p.m. just kind of middle engagement. And a lot of companies I've kind of worked with, or organizations I've worked with, either don't bother posting at the weekend at all, based on their kind of strategy and aims, or the stuff that they post at the weekend are kind of that longer form, you've got to be invested to kind of read it
Oh,
anyway
that's
kind of
interesting.
posts. Yeah, that's the kind of strategy that a few places I've worked for previously or worked with have taken that approach to kind of take that dip in engagement at a weekend, and kind of run with it. But one thing that a lot of places just don't post at a weekend.
Sure. I only really tend to see football on the weekend
Yeah.
because, like, I actually think like football would be really cool to work in, but like on a Saturday, it's like going through a match where there's like red cards, yellow cards, goals and
Yeah,
stuff. You can't make a single typo and stuff has got to go out so quickly.
fast
Must be
paced.
so stressful working all hours on a weekend. But yeah, I guess the psychology of that is really interesting, isn't it? Of just people having a scroll while they're at work. And I think the 5 o'clock one is like when it gets to 4:56 and you're like, oh, I'm kind of done for the day. I'll just have a quick scroll. Maybe I'll see if there's something on Facebook Marketplace to pick up on the way home. But yeah, all kind of straightforward there, isn't it? Old reliable Facebook.
Yeah, definitely.
We move on to its, I don't know, cousin, sibling, Instagram next, where it's kind of a little bit different actually, where again on the weekend there's a steady flow. I think that's pretty much the case throughout. So from here on, I think you can probably say, unless otherwise we're talking Monday to Friday,
Yes.
we see a spike at 9 and that is carried later into the day to about 2 to 3 p.m. So there is a little bit of a difference there. And what we tend to see with some of the clients we work with is that where they were previously, before working with us, they were maybe posting the same content on Facebook and Instagram and just posting at the same time.
Yeah.
There might be some justification there to actually split that a little bit. And that's only a quick change per post, but it could have a tangible impact on your results there. One thing that I find really interesting is that there's a random spike on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. I wonder if it's something like there's a TV show or like really popular TV shows are on at that time and people are looking for like the latest news or gossip or the memes after it. Yeah, just a weird nuance there, right?
Yeah, I wonder as well. I mean, thinking about how I use socials, Wednesday, you're starting to think about the weekend, right? So is it kind of going onto Instagram as a search engine, trying to find those places to
Ooh,
go,
good shout.
looking ahead to, your weekend coming up. So that's personally how I probably use Instagram. And Wednesday night is probably when I start to ramp up my weekend plans. So
Nice.
yeah, that might also be a good shout there.
So I guess thinking about the day to day, then I went to a cafe this morning. Really nice, Mellow in Exeter. I don't know who it's owned by, but really nice. It's not far from our office. Lucy and I had a nice coffee and pastry. That would be maybe something they could lean into then, is posting something on the weekend, giving a good range of what they're serving over that weekend, some product shots and stuff like that. Because that's very like sendable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like oh my god, we were going to meet on Saturday anyway, like let's go here.
Yeah.
So a little bit of advice for Mellow there you go.
The other thing I might just flag as well
Sure.
is Fridays. So looking at Facebook and Instagram, Fridays are a quieter day, particularly on Instagram. And again, I've worked at some places where they've just said no to posting on Fridays completely.
Oh wow.
Yeah, just because they have found that Fridays they just get really low engagement and low reach. So again, maybe it's something to experiment with. I think that will definitely be it depends on your brand and your company and what your aims are out of your strategy. But yeah, Fridays I also think are a really interesting one.
For sure. I think there's an element with the weekends and Friday stuff as well of like it's just not practical a lot of the time as well. So, you know, for a lot of businesses, even big businesses, your social media team don't work 24/7 and they certainly don't work weekends. So do you want to be posting content, and especially your best content, that's likely to stir a conversation, which might need some community management in there when you're not working? You probably don't, do you? So you're just doing yourself a favor there. I'm going to skip the next one and jump ahead to TikTok because it's kind of the rival cousin, if you like, to Instagram. And this is where we start to see some real quirks. And I think I shared this on LinkedIn the other day, just this quirk. Really, really weird one that on Monday, it tends to be a bit quieter. Even Tuesday is a little bit quiet until the evening. But then Wednesday's by far the most popular day, with a real spike at 12 o'clock on Wednesdays. And I'm just thinking, like, I understand the hump day vibes and stuff like that, but I didn't really think it was like that big a thing. Like, but I look across the office and I can possibly see it in a couple of individuals. I'll include myself in there just to not take any flack. That hump day feeling there. Maybe you're more inclined to just take a 15-minute scroll or something like that. But it's just this real dark dot in the middle that stands out by itself. Really interesting.
Yeah. And I think as well, I was surprised by TikTok. I would have assumed that maybe it was later into the evening that TikTok peaked in terms of engagement. Again, everyone talks about doom scrolling at 2 a.m. Well, actually, it's showing on here, there's not high engagement around those times. It seems to be that kind of 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. that is the kind of top times, which, I guess is surprising maybe for some people, because, everyone talks about going on TikTok.
I wonder if that's because this is measuring engagement rather than reach or something like that. So that would be really interesting if we could, I don't know how you would get that data, but to see how many people are viewing, but literally just doom scrolling, not hitting likes or something like that, watching, like, I don't know, spot popping videos and stuff like that at 2 a.m. Cool. So we'll take a step back then to LinkedIn, corporate cousin here. There's a really, really strong trend here where the highest level engagement on LinkedIn is Tuesday to Thursday, 10 to 11.
Yeah.
And that's really nice, actually, because I think if you were to trust this data, which I think you should, and even as a starting point, that gives you really clear, right, if we're posting on LinkedIn, our best starting point is 10 or 11, Tuesday to Thursday, let's go for there. And one of our clients we work with on LinkedIn does post on a Tuesday or Thursday, but I don't think they're actually posting at this time, which is one of the recommendations we're making to them in the next meeting we have with them, just to make that slight change. You could even A/B test it, I guess, just doing one day and just see what happens.
Yeah. And I think that's true with all this data, I guess. It's a case of you could use this as a great starting point, and then take it from there, see what you find works best for your organization. Like we've discussed, maybe if you're a cafe, you're going to find success on a completely different time to, if you're a sports shop or something, for example. I think LinkedIn, it makes sense that it's peaking at those times. The reason to go on LinkedIn is going to be different for everyone, but a lot of it's that kind of community, and you'll tend to be there to talk about your work and your career and connect with other people who have the same passions. So I think those times are probably when you're feeling most passionate, right?
Sure. Yeah, you've just had your coffee and you're raring to go, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Next channel, it's kind of the forgotten social media, if you like, is Pinterest. I think this is the most interesting of all.
Yeah.
Really, really, really clear spike, Tuesday to Friday at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
What is that about?
Yeah, and I actually love this. I really enjoy Pinterest. And like you said, I definitely think it's often overlooked, especially in kind of podcasts where people talk about social media, and just those day-to-day conversations. But I think this shows that people are going there to be inspired. You think 1 a.m., why might you use Pinterest? And generally, you're going there to find inspiration, to get ideas, to kind of drive that. Lots of people use it for lots of different reasons. Personally, I've done it for like decor and nail art and things like that. So 1 a.m. makes sense. There's also kind of a note, especially in here, it says that it could be, in this article, it says it may be a combination of when users are stuck for inspiration, and it could also be the Pinterest algorithm affecting engagement times.
Okay.
It's an interesting one, but I think 1 a.m. on Pinterest, and I would have thought 1 a.m. on TikTok, but obviously not. It kind of makes sense for me. And I think you are going to be engaging with the content a little bit more on Pinterest. As a general, people who use Pinterest are a lot more invested in what they're looking at. They're not so much scrolling through. They're taking their time to read or look at in detail what it is that's coming up on their feed. So, it's an interesting one, but definitely a platform that I think more people should kind of dip their toes into.
Sure.
And give it a go.
I don't actually have it on my phone.
Don't you?
Maybe I need to.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I used to have it for tattoo inspiration, and
Yeah.
that was about it. But I know, and it'd be interesting for you actually as well, because we've both either had a lot of weddings or have weddings coming up
Yeah.
in our personal lives. I don't know if there's lots of stressed maid of honors or bridesmaids
Yeah.
looking at decorations or hen do games and stuff like that at 1 a.m.
Just a side note, I don't know if you've seen that trend on Instagram Reels and TikTok of people sharing their wedding boards from when they were teenagers. Check it out
I
because
haven't
it is
seen that.
hilarious, like what you thought you wanted your wedding to look like when you were 15. Yeah, on Pinterest, it's a good trend to have, and I think we've all were probably guilty of that when we were teenagers. So yeah, good one.
I can't say I was, but
Okay.
there we go. We did TikTok, didn't we?
Yeah, so X.
Yeah, this is kind of the most boring one, I think. I think
Mhm.
part of it is just the color of the graph. It's not as nice to look at, is it? But you've got a really, really, really strong clump, Monday to Friday between 8 and 2.
Mm.
I don't use X these days.
No, I think previously I used X a lot more for kind of what I would say I use LinkedIn for now.
Okay.
So, and I would say up until probably 6 months ago, I was still using X for that kind of building a community with kind of other professionals. I have stepped away from using X, but again, for me, those were probably the times I was using it because I was connecting. Whether people are still using X for that, I'm not so sure. I think there has been a step away from that recently. But yeah, interesting to see kind of 9 a.m. to early afternoon.
Mm-hmm. Really useful for us as well, because we've got a new client on board this week, haven't we? Who we're going to be working really closely on their personal branding on X. So this is tick number one in our box there.
Yeah.
And then I think we come to the end there, don't we? So any key takeaways for you, Ricky?
Yeah, I think like we said at the start, it's really helpful to use this as a guide. One thing I would recommend is doing an audit of your content. If you've been running an account for a long time in particular, it's something that I've done previous work on, and just using the time to see when your posts are performing best. It's quite nice to do that as I'm just going to do it now. See how things are performing, what times you're posting, and then do some trial and error. So then maybe spend 1 month, 2 months, 3 months posting at different times, and then do another audit. It can be really, really helpful. It's something that I've done previously, and got quite a lot of interesting data and a lot of success from that. And a lot of that was where we kind of came up with those strategies around what we were going to post at weekends and things like that as well. So definitely something I would recommend looking at doing if you're kind of unsure where to take your strategy in terms of posting times.
Sure. Yeah, I've always been quite skeptical of this, because I always think if content's good, it'll like reach people, right? But I think like the data here just shows that might not be the case. And I think like organic social, there are so many moving parts to it, and it is tricky to have success on organic social. So why wouldn't you equip yourself with the best information to give yourself the best fighting chance?
Exactly.
So yeah, I'll definitely be taking a closer eye on this and taking it a bit more seriously moving forward, both with clients and in my own personal social media. Ricky, thank you so much for your
Thank
time
you.
on this first episode of our Mammoth podcast session. If people want to contact you to maybe find out a little bit more about how you did that audit, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can email me. It's ricky@optixsolutions.co.uk.
Yep.
And LinkedIn as well. I think we're all on LinkedIn. So yeah, it's my full name though, Rocheldis, all fancy. Rocheldis Kane on LinkedIn.
Very nice. And if you want to contact me for whatever reason, it's Barnaby at optixsolutions.co.uk. Or if you have any questions or anything you'd like us to discuss on the podcast, the email address is podcast@optixsolutions.co.uk. Thank you so much for being a brilliant audience. We've really appreciated you, and we will see you in next week's episode. Take care.
Bye.